Hello everyone, and welcome back to the How to Build an RTS Game from Start to Finish series, where we learn to build a game from the ground up while completely at the mercy of you guys. Hey guys, in our last video we did part 1, adding the ability to spawn units where we added stats to our buildings and set them up to start taking spawning information for our units. So if you haven't seen that one, go ahead and check that out, and I'll put a link to that in the description, and in the card above. So I do also just kind of want to take a second to say thank you so much for continuing to support the channel and looking forward to everything. And we've built this awesome community on Discord. It seems like everyone's out there helping each other a lot, and there's been tons of support on YouTube as well. And so I just wanted to honestly say thank you for your patience while we got this RTS series ready to keep adding some more videos for you guys. Um, that being said, I wanted to give everybody kind of a huge thank you by starting this back up by saying we have it available to the public now on GitHub. So you can see it here where the link is up on top. We'll also put this link in the description below for everybody. And I'll also start this off by showing you how you can do this through GitHub. So first thing, you do need to make sure that you do have like Git Bash stuff like, downloaded on your computer, which we'll show you how to do that in another tutorial. If you need it, let us know in the comments below. So for now, I already have it downloaded. So I'm just going to pull it up. So here we have Git Bash. So the first thing that you want to do whenever you're pulling this from GitHub is cd into the directory that you want it in. So for example, I want mine in documents, okay? And so then I hit enter. And you can have yours wherever you want it, but I want mine in documents. Now I'm going to type git clone, okay? And now you want to hit this code drop down and copy this. You want to make sure it's the HTTPS one, okay? Now, we're going to go back to Git Bash, and I'm going to paste this in here. To do that is Control Shift Insert on mine. You can do settings and change how to paste that, or you can just type it. Whatever you want to do with that, you can right click and click paste, whatever works the best for you. And then you hit enter. And so now basically it went over there and it got all our infos and it put it down onto my computer. Okay, so now that that's there, I can actually do cd and so // is saying go into what I already have typed, which is /documents, and then I can go straight into, oops, I spelled that wrong. So it's Lithex hyphen productions, right? Well, if it doesn't want to autofill for me right now, cd dot, oops, dot slash. Oh, it's because it's actually not, I need to type how. Yeah, how to build an RTS series. So I'm just hitting tab to autofill. And so now you can see that I'm actually inside of this repo. You can't actually push and pull from this, but this is how you would normally do it for your GitHub stuff. And then from here you could fetch and change branches, etc. But we're not going to go through that right now. So once you've done that, you want to go to your Unity Hub. And from here, mine already shows here, but in case yours doesn't, I'll show you how to get that back. So I'm just going to hit remove from list, remove from list. Okay, so you'll go to, you'll be in your projects tab and you won't see it, but you hit add and then you go to where you downloaded it at and then just select that folder. Now, one more thing that I changed is you can see that we've been building on 2020.1.8. I went on ahead and went to my installs, so that's here on this left tab, and then you hit add, and I updated to the newest version, which is 2020.3.19. Okay, oops. And so you can go on ahead and install that, go through your processes on that, and then you should, once you have this installed, you can go to your projects and you can select a version and switch to that as well, if you like. You don't necessarily have to, but I would recommend keeping up with us as we can switch to the newer versions, okay? And so once that's done, we'll open it, and it'll ask us if we want to upgrade our scripts because of a newer version of Unity, and we'll hit yes because I already know that this one works. It's tested for already for everybody. And so any further pushes on here that you guys want to pull will be on a newer version. Now, another way that you can do this if you don't want to go through all the GitHub stuff is you can just click the code and you can just download a zip file. And my kitty is going crazy over here. She must be, she's happy about it too, I guess. Okay, now that that's done, while Unity loads, um, I do just want to, give a big thanks to everybody. If you guys aren't subscribed, um, please do. Come join us in Discord. I can't wait to see what more of you guys do, because it's been incredible so far, and we're all really excited to keep this going. So, yeah. While this waits, I'm going to just go ahead and skip forward for you so you don't have to sit here through all the import. Oh, but it looks like maybe we actually don't have to. I think it already finished. It sure did. Great. So let's just go ahead and get started. One thing that we had happen from the last video was that our enemies were no longer able to aggro our um, our player units. So in order to do this fix, we're going to go to scripts, we'll go to units, enemy, and let's open up our enemy unit. Now, the function that we're going to be looking for, we're going to scroll down, and it's this check for enemy targets. Now, the easiest way to add this fix is you see this line right here. We're just going to highlight these, and we're going to hit Control X to cut. Okay. Now, at the end of the range colliders part, we're going to hit a comma, space, and then we'll paste it there. Now, we no longer need this if statement there, but what we can do is take the inside and do Control X to cut, and then we'll delete this, and then we'll paste our stuff back here. So this is a lot cleaner. It's going to fix it, but another thing we need to do, because this will actually never be used, because we're always grabbing the first one. Let's just take that out. Okay, now we can save this script to be like how it is. Now, there is another issue that I noticed on this specific build that we have now. Yours is probably different, but just in case you're having the same error, let's go to our scriptable objects, our units, our warrior, just check these enemies out here, because we want to look at their base stats. Look at this aggro range is at 100. It does not need to be that high. I'm going to set mine to 5. Okay, and the reason why we need to make sure that these are a lot lower is because, so like even this workers is, well, I mean, I guess 10 is probably fine, but what we want to make sure is that we're not aggroing this building because that's not set up to work yet. Okay, so let's make sure that our aggro ranges are just around our players right now. And there's one more thing we need to do. So let's go to this unit stat display. Okay, now if we scroll down to the die function all the way at the bottom, we're only removing the highlight or the health bars and stuff. That's what it's trying to remove out of this out of our selected units. So what we actually need to do is remove its parent, which is the actual unit itself. Now that'll work. It'll remove it from everything, then destroy the objects. We shouldn't get any errors now. So let's go on ahead and save this, and we'll go back to Unity and just make sure that everything is up to date and working properly. So I'll hit play, and let's just grab one of our guys, run over, see if he gets aggroed. Oh, he got killed really fast. The reason why is because I have this warrior's attack likely too high. Now, so see his attack is like 50. Let's just put his attack to like maybe 10. Okay. And now when we hit play, he won't die so fast, and we'll get to see the health bars go down and them chase us and hit us, and we die. And then he gets aggroed, and let's see if we can run him over here. Yep, there. Okay, he got us. So now we should be all back up in perfect working order. So let's go on ahead and finish what we started. So we normally when we spawn things in an RTS, there's like some sort of a UI at the bottom. So we're just going to make like a temporary UI for now. So in order to do that, let's right click, go to UI, and we'll create a canvas. And we'll just call this UI. Now inside of this canvas, let's make a panel. And we'll just call this like actions frame. Okay. Now let's click on actions frame to make sure that it's highlighted. And we'll go to 2D mode and hit F while we're inside, have our mouse inside of this scene view to focus on this actions frame. Now we can get started working on what we want our actions frame to be like. So I'm going to press T to go into this selection, and I can start to move these things down. And this is letting me size this stuff, so you'll see why this is going to be really important later. But we're going to set this, and I'll just set it to, I don't know, actually maybe blue. Blue seems kind of cool. Doesn't necessarily have to be like that. Let's make it a little see-through as well. And you can make yours however you want. Again, this is just temporary. So I'm going to add another one on the inside of this too, another panel. And I'm going to call this actions grid group. And for this, I'll just make it black and somewhat see-through. And then we're going to just kind of, make it go down just a little bit. And so you see how I'm moving it on all sides. This is because I'm holding Alt while I do this. Another way that you could do this is to just grab this one corner and just move it down a little bit. And then grab the whole box and center it. Right, now we created a sort of a border around it, right? Okay. Now, in this actions grid group, we want to scroll down and add a component. Perfect. I already have this typed in, but if you don't have it, you can just search and you type grid. Oops, if you spell it right, grid, and you'll see grid layout group. Okay, now we have a lot of settings in here that we're going to want to set. So in order to do this most efficiently, in my opinion, is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to create a UI panel inside of this actions grid group. I'm going to call it an action. Now I want to have maybe, let's take a look at our game view just to see real quick. Those are a little bit too big for my taste. Let's make them just a little bit smaller. But I think this looks kind of good. Maybe we'll do like 5 in a row or something. And so the reason that I put these in there first is because now when we go to our grid layout group, we can change the cell size, right? So let's do like, I don't know, 50? Well, let's try 75. Okay, so 75 by 75. Now that changed all of those on the inside. And that made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that made 6. I don't really want 6. But that might actually change when we do the rest of the scaling. So let's just do 75 by 75. Now on this padding, I'm going to just grab and scroll with this, right? So let's actually add some spacing first. Let's, I don't know, maybe 5 and 5. So now that we have some spacing, now we can try and make this stuff fit right in the center. So let's do about 40, and right is going to be 40. Then we can move down on the top just a little bit. I like about 15 is just fine, and we'll put 15 on bottom. Now I'm going to grab the actions frame, and I'm just going to move it down to where it fits about in there. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's pretty nice. I want to separate that out a little bit more to give them space in between themselves. So that's going to be our X spacing. So I'm going to give it as much as I possibly can. And so we can actually probably move this down to make it a little bit more even. Let's, as a matter of fact, we could probably do 15s all around. And then we'll just add the spacing in there until it fits just right. So just before it clips over. And that's really close to 20. So let's just do 20. And the Y seems, it's probably, I like the Y. The Y is fine. Oops, I'm clicking on the wrong one anyway. Let's see if we can make it look a little bit better. Let's just leave it at 5. That's fine for now. Okay, so that's why I would add so many of the actions in there, is because now I can actually size our grid layout group just visually and just fine. You can actually do it more mathematically if you want to, or whatever. But this is going to be fine for our purposes because we don't actually have our actual UI stuff in here that we're going to be using. So now that we have all that, I'm going to take the rest of these actions and I'm going to delete them. Now, we only have one, but that's fine because what we want to do is go to our prefabs and let's create a folder. And my cat, what kitty? She's going crazy. Okay, so let's just call this, I don't know, actions. Well, no, what we probably should call this is UI. And then we'll create another folder on the inside called HUD. And we're going to just drop this action in there. Okay. Now we can actually delete it from here. Okay. So let's start making this work. Let's create the same kind of folder structure in here. So scripts. We'll create a folder and we'll call it UI. Inside of UI, we're going to create another folder called HUD. And now we're going to create two scripts. This one's going to be called player actions. And let's create another one. And we'll call this one action frame. Great. Now, let's open up our player actions and let's get this ready for code. So I always delete this here in the middle. And I'm going to go on ahead and set my namespace as always so we don't forget. Namespace. Okay, and we have lp .ftg and we made UI.hud is what we just made. So we'll take this and put it right there in the middle. Okay, so this is actually going to be a scriptable object that we later pass into our actions frame. So let's create a scriptable object now, and then we'll give this an asset menu. So create asset menu, and we'll do a file name of, I don't know, new player actions, and then we'll do menu name, and we'll call it player, create new player actions. I don't know. Actions sounds fine. Okay. So first thing, let's create what we actually want to have in here. So we're going to do, let's make this, it has to be public, and then we'll do units.basic unit dot, this is going to be a array, and we'll just call this basic units equals new units basic unit array of 0. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing, but we'll do it for our buildings. So buildings dot basic building array called, I don't know, basic buildings equals new buildings basic building array of 0. Okay, so let's actually pretty this up a little bit. Let's create a header. And on this header, we'll just call it units. And then we want a space below this header. So let's do space. And again, you have to do that above the header to make it below the header because it's weird. Okay. Now on this one, let's create a header. And we'll just call this buildings. And now I want to separate both of these a bit. So to put a space above the header, we need to put space below the header. And we'll put it, I don't know, let's do about 15. And then to make it the same as the top one, we'll put a space of 5 after the header as well. Okay, so let's just save this and let's take a look and see how this looks in here. Okay, we're going to scroll down to our scriptable objects area, and we're going to create a new folder, and we'll just call it player actions, and we'll right click create player actions. Yeah, that looks good. So we got some space, we got a little bit of headers. I like it. Awesome. So now that that's done, we actually originally, remember when we created our buildings, we wanted to set that right here. So because we're going to be doing this a lot cleaner in a way that can be built on top of a lot better later on, let's just remove that from here because we don't need that anymore. So we're going to save that. So that's basic buildings, and just so you know, that's the building actions, not building units. That's what we're removing right now. So we're going to remove that and save our basic building script again. Also, I believe, yeah, we had build actions, our building actions. Um, we don't need this anymore. Let's just delete this. And we're going to delete it right now because we don't want to forget later and have a bunch of unused stuff in here. So that's building actions. Let's just get rid of that because all of our actions are going to be handled right here and with our little scriptable objects that we got going on. Okay. Now that we have that set, let's go back to our scripts that we made before, but let's go to our action frame instead here. Let's make sure that this is set up to start coding. So I'm removing my middle part and I am adding a name space of lp.fdg.ui.hud. Okay. And then I remove this and put it into the middle. Okay. So let's make this we're going to sort of instance this too. So, and again, this is not an actual instance, by the way. It's sort of like it kind of gives it a singleton shape, but it's not an actual singleton. It just sort of works like one. Okay, so action frame, and we'll call it instance. Instance equals null. Okay, now I'm going to create a serialized field. And what this does is when we set a variable like this to private, oh, and I actually can't create a button here yet because I need to do using Unity engine.ui. Now we can make a button. So what creating the serialized field does is it still lets us see the the item inside of our inspector, even though it's private. We can still change it like in the inspector, but other scripts still can't edit it. So we'll do another one, private. We'll do a transform. Excuse me. A layout group. Okay, equals null. And now we're going to do just a regular private list of buttons. And we'll just call it buttons. Buttons equals new list of buttons. Okay. Now let's actually make sure that we set our instance. So let's create, oops, I should say private void awake, and then we'll say if instance is equal to null, then instance equals this. Okay. Now you could technically add in else destroy this, but it's not really. It's probably the safer route to go, but I don't do it just because I know I'm only adding one. And if not, then if there is two, it still wouldn't work anyway, and it'll throw an error, and then I'll know. But if you add that in, then it'll just delete the one that's not. But I usually like to see where I messed up, so um, this isn't necessarily necessary either way. But it's really smart to go on ahead and add those things just to kind of protect yourself in the future. So let's create a new public void. Okay, so we're going to call this set action buttons. And in order to do this, we need to get that scriptable object stuff, right? So let's get player actions, and we'll just call them actions. And then we're going to say if our actions dot basic units dot length is greater than 0, meaning if there are basic units inside of that list, then for each one that we have, we're going to grab, yeah, so for each, well, units basic, so for each basic unit in our actions basic units, so for each one, we are going to create a button. So let's do button, and we'll just call it button equals instantiate our action button. So we'll instantiate an action button, which is the prefab we made earlier. Or what did we call it? We just called it an action, whatever. Action button is what we called it in here, so that's fine. We'll just make sure it matches. So, and then we'll make it a child of our layout group. Okay? And then we want to further finish setting up a little bit how this button is. So we'll like set up the button name maybe. So button name button dot name is equal to the unit dot name. Okay. Maybe we'll like add some text later on. You know, we can do whatever else here, but then we'll want to add it to our buttons. So buttons dot add, and we'll add the button. Okay. And so now that we've done that for our basic units, then we want to do the same thing for our buildings. So let's do if actions dot basic buildings dot length is greater than 0. We'll do the same thing. So for each, we'll just say, oh yeah, it's building. For each buildings dot basic building, we'll just call it a building. Buildings basic building. In actions dot basic buildings, we are going to create a button. So button equals instantiate action button in the layout group. And that button dot name is going to equal the building dot name. And again, we'll add text or whatever else we might want to do later, and add the button to the buttons list. Okay. Now that we have that, let's actually make a way to be able to clear this list, because we're going to need to be able to do that. So public void, we'll just call it clear actions. And we'll just say for each button oops, in actions, no, in buttons, then we're going to do buttons dot remove the button, and then we're going to destroy the button. Cool. Destroying all the buttons that we worked so hard to make just now. Great, perfect, wonderful. Okay, so now let's go to our Unity, let the scripts load, and let's go to our interactables and go to iBuilding and open that up. Now, let's add something here at the very top. We're going to add public UI.HUD and player actions, and we'll just call it actions. Actions. Okay. Now, what we kind of want to do with this is this is going to be a way for us to set those. Actually, you know, we probably could. No, this is a better place because it's going to set it to each of our buildings. So let's just save this for a second. And if we look at our, where is it? So if you look at our building prefab now we have actions. So in here, I want to add, oops, what did I just do? Okay, so go back to the building, and so in here for our building, let's say we want to add our player actions. So we'll just call this, let's rename this so it fits. We'll call it barracks player actions. Okay. Now, in our building, we can drag our barracks player actions into that action slot. And what that's going to do is allow us to set these actions and change these actions, and it'll change it for all barracks that we've had placed ever. And so what I want this to do is maybe let's say the barracks creates a warrior. So let's add one slot. Let's add a warrior. Okay, so that adds the basic units into our player actions that are available for that warrior. Okay, so let's actually go back to this now. So when we enter our interactions, the first thing that we want to do is we're going to say UI.HUD .action frame .instance .set action buttons and actions. So this actions that we grabbed, we're going to set the action buttons to those. Okay, and then we'll actually on whenever we exit, let's see if we can just go on ahead and clear these. So we'll do UI.HUD.ActionFrame.instance. Clear actions. Okay. Now let's save this and let's see if this works in Unity. So this should have us all set up and ready to go. Awesome. We got a cool little UI. We click on our building. Uh-oh, null reference. And the reason why, I can already guess it probably. Go to our actions frame. And we need to add this script to our actions frame. Our action frame script to our action frame. Now we need to grab this action button. And well, first we need to make sure that, let's open this up and we're going to add a component. And we're going to add a button to it. Okay. So once that's on, once that's on, we should be able to add that in. Make sure you save before you back out. Now let's add this action to the action button. And now we need to add the layout group, which is the actions grid group. Okay. And now that those are in there, there's one more specific thing that we're probably going to have to change because now that I'm thinking about it, and I meant to change this before, let's go to our scripts and let's make sure that this await says instance equals this. We don't want to say if instance is equal to null because I didn't do the full loop, so let's just do instance equals this, okay? And once we have that, we should be able to work. Let's find out. Let's hit play. Awesome. Yeah, so now it highlights our building and it gives us our button. So that's all we're going to add for this specific one. We're probably going to have to do a part 3 on it because I don't want the videos to go too long. But hopefully you guys are starting to kind of see how this is coming together. And I really, honestly, I appreciate you guys so much for following along on this tutorial. If you're not subscribed, make sure to go on ahead and subscribe and like the video. It helps us out so much. And again, thank you guys so much for continuing to support throughout the whole thing. Let me know, obviously, in the Discord group or in the comments if you have any questions. We definitely want to hear from you guys. And yeah, so until next time, guys. Peace.